Welcome back to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to say thank you to them right now. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to say thank you to our platinum sponsors, including Gilman Gear, always a step ahead, Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better, Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing, Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life, Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple, and Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Sally Ann Reiss. Sally is the founder and the CEO of PlayyOn, which is a sports and recreation management software program for schools, for teams, for clubs, and camps. Sally, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on.
Oh, well, we appreciate it very much. As you know, it's a busy time for athletic directors and CEOs, so we're going to jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, and sports background, and maybe how events led you to the position you're at today.
Sounds great. Well, I actually was born in Western British Columbia, Canada. Went to University of Victoria and got a degree in economics, political science. Had at that time the privilege of also playing basketball for 2 years for UVic, as well as crewing for their 8-women crew boat. So have a strong background in sports. But did actually then leave Canada, and I lived overseas in Australia, Japan, and France for 5 years. I was overseas. Most of that time I was working for a French investment bank, doing different types of investment work. And then I came to the Bay Area and was working at the Hoover Institution on Stanford campus, doing some work there for an economist.
Okay.
What happened then, which was, so it's like, well, so how did you get to where you're at? Interesting enough, I joined the startup world. I joined a company that name was Teleworld. And it was just 2 guys, great guys, coming out of Silicon Graphics, and they had an idea. And we launched a company which is now known as TiVo, the Pause Live TV. And that got me involved in that concept of taking an idea and making it into a company. And so then after TiVo went public and I sort of moved on to my next experience, which was kids, then I actually went back to work. And when I went back to work, I had the opportunity to really help startup companies. And I started working with biotech companies. I started working with all sorts of different companies because they're all the same. You take an idea, you figure out if it's a business, and then you start to add value. And I always call it moving the football down the field little by little every day. So that's where it got me. And then about where I am with PlayyOn, I was actually working in a biotech company, and I was also coaching girls basketball. Here in Palo Alto, I found myself helping manage a girls basketball academy which had about 150 girls in it. And we were so overwhelmed by the management of it. It was ridiculous. And I kept saying, there's got to be a better way. And I was like using Eventbrite for this and Facebook for that and TeamSnap for this. Like it was all over the place. And I just said, there's got to be a better way. And there wasn't. So I hired some engineers. We built a prototype. I brought in all of my coaches and all of the administrators and athletes that I knew and had them weigh in on this. And it's been something that's developed over time. But PlayyOn is really something that was supposed to be an answer to that expensive, time-consuming experience people were experiencing when they were trying to manage their sports.
Wow. I read your bio a little bit. I got to ask before we talk about PlayyOn, um, your background in crew and rowing.
Yes.
I've never done it, but as a longtime football coach, I've had a number of my players go on to college, university, and they didn't play football, but they ended up on crew. And they've told me, what a physically demanding and at the same time very rewarding experience it was. What was your experience with crew?
It is interesting to me that crew is one of those things that if you're an athlete and they put you in a boat and you've never done it before, it's a quick learn of the basics. And if you're athletic and you have endurance and you have the ability to learn, if you're coachable, you can become a rower. I'm surprised that rowing's not more pervasive in younger communities because it's just a wonderful sport. You don't have to be big and burly. You can actually just be a great athlete, but it is an expensive sport. And so for communities that are don't have the wherewithal to be able to support the programs, it's expensive. Recently read a great book about rowing in the Chicago communities and how there were some various people that brought rowing to the Black communities there and how they taught kids, especially young Black men, how to row and how that really changed their life. Excellent book.
Oh, that sounds very, very interesting. Let's go and talk a little bit about PlayyOn. I've heard of it before, and I went to your website, and I was very taken by your mission statement to help the athletic community thrive. I love that word, thrive, by enabling members to manage their sport activities effortlessly. In my world of athletic administration, that really spoke to me. So just tell our listeners, who are mostly athletic directors, about PlayyOn and what it might do for them.
Athletic directors sort of have that that really important job that nobody gives them credit for because they are working so hard just to get the kids to the playing field or to the gym. And there's so much that has to happen just to get them there. And what we wanted to be able to do is support that athletic director, to be able to give them easy to use tools that had no cost to it. Because again, a lot of these guys are running their sports programs on a pretty thin budget. So we made it free. We made it really easy to use. And we allowed them all the tools of scheduling, communications, and being able to get people to sign up and, sign forms and give them information. Instant, easy, free to use. What that does is it gives them the tools now to be able to offer that also to both the athlete, but also the parents or the fans, the supporters. Because now when they have everything up on PlayyOn, the parents can come in and easily see the schedule, or they can go in and they don't have to sift through all their emails to look at communications. It's right there on PlayyOn because the athletic director says, this is my message and this is how I want you to send it, through text, through email, through a post. And it makes it a lot easier because this is the internet age. And, you and I are maybe a little bit of relics where our communication has been something where we see it much more in a message to message where we go to emails, but emails are something that the next generation don't use as much. So what they want to be able to do is, if I'm a younger athlete, a millennial, I want to go, hey, what time is my game? And I want to go find it. I want to go find it into a place where I know it'll be. And I can see all the communications right there. I don't want to have to sift through my emails. And so this allows that high school director to easily set up their communications so that, yes, if people are still old school and they want to get an email, they've got the email. But now also he's got a place to post all the communications that are necessary to say, hey, game is canceled, or we've moved the game, or whatever it's going to be, or even just a marketing thing like, don't forget about the game, come out and support your team.
It sounds very, very cool. And I know you've got, clients across the country that are utilizing it. Share, maybe at least one, maybe one or two examples of some really cool applications that, either an athletic director or an organization has used this to service their stakeholders.
Well, we see it with athletic directors because they have, so they've got basketball season and football season, they've got boys and they've got girls and they've got varsity and they've got JV. And what we find with the athletic directors is sometimes the communication just goes directly into one team. But most often than not, it actually needs to go across all the different teams. And it's a reminder of, hey, don't forget who we are as an organization. What is our school's brand? What do we stand for? Come out and support your team. Then there's a messaging that goes directly into the team that says something like, don't forget, we're home team, so we're white. The connectedness of the athletic director to his whole community is really important. And I say that again, they're the unsung hero of the programs because they're the ones that have to go out and get everybody to get involved, everybody to get excited, everybody to show up. And I know that the athletes are there to play and to win, but without a really good organization and a connectedness of that leader, the athletic director, to their community, it's kind of a hollow experience.
I see where you're coming from.
And I wanted to add, you asked me one specific question. I love this group up in Washington State. There's a group up in Washington State that the athletic director came to me and he says, I don't understand computers, but I really want to. And I said, we're going to make this so simple for you that you won't have any problems. And we set it up so it also, by the way, they have a school website. And we just plug into their school website in the backside. So now he can control everything through the back and he can put up the schedule and everything. And he is, he's 62 years old. He has never been a computer person, but he's all of a sudden become this big techie guy because everybody thinks, wow, look what you're doing. And it cost him $0 to implement it. And so he's a star to everybody. And that's what we want to do. We want to make those guys feel really enabled.
Oh, that's very cool. Thanks for sharing that. I kind of skipped over myself. Obviously your background is quite varied, both athletically and in the business and the tech world. In our business of athletic administration, we always talk about the importance of leadership and mentorship. Yes. And I'm just always curious, who are some of your mentors, either coaches you had growing up or people that you've worked with or worked for? The expression I like to use is I still hear those voices in my head of my mentors when I'm talking to coaches or kids or parents. So whose voices do you still hear?
Well, so that's a really good one. So I had a coach when I was in high school. I was a fairly decent basketball player. And we had been successful in my senior year, and we were going to go to the state finals, essentially the state. It was our provincial finals. And I was not being a good leader, right? I was, what he said to me was, as captain of the team, it is not your job to take the energy away from other people by demanding they do things. It's your job to fill them up with energy. And I think nowadays we call that filling up the cup. Mm-hmm. And he really taught me a good lesson that it's not, as captain of the team and leadership, it's not about being the best person, best player, fastest, most scoring, best defense. It was about the person who could motivate the rest of the kids on the team. And he drilled that into me in a way that was hard. Sometimes it was really hard for me to hear. He would bench me, even at the cost of losing a game, because I wasn't enabling my other players. I was just taking the glory for myself. That was a hard lesson in life. Andy Gilbert was his name. And when I learned that lesson, I became a better person for it. And I not only took that lesson from sports and applied that as I went on, and I actually ended up playing in some semi-professional sports after I graduated from university. But I learned that to take that in work. And when I work with my team, and even here at PlayyOn, what I always say to our team is, my job is not to do your job. My job is to get you the ball, and then you score. That was a big lesson in life. And that's leadership to me. Leadership is about not being at the head. It's actually about supporting the others to make sure that they are the ones that score.
That's a great story. And again, I'm the athletic director of a private school. And so our parents are, in the business world, professionals, et cetera. And in talking with them, they just are always sharing that their world is very much team oriented and, trying to get the best out of each other. So it's great to hear those parallels. Right?
Yeah. And if I could add one last thing, because this is important, I've been in every role. I've been, leading a program. I've been a coach. I've been an athlete. I've also been a parent of kids. I've got 3 children of my own who are all graduated and moved on to high school or to university. I would ask every athletic director to also check in with his parents about, what does it mean to win? Right? What is success for your program? Because I think that what we sometimes hear in our head is the narrative of the professional world. And so we see a lot of kids who are shooting for that professional route of sports, which is fine. I mean, it's great to have aspirations. But when you have 10 kids on a team and only one of them is good to even think about that route, and you set up success as being a scholarship, then that means that 9 kids fail. So I always say to athletic directors, what you have to do is get buy-in from your whole community, the players, the parents, the other coaches, everything else like that, is what is success for your program? And I think the best success is making better people, right? And then also making sure that they love the game, whether they get a scholarship or not, right? One of the things about the vision of PlayyOn, and one of the things that we feel very strongly about, is we've created a software that is about encouraging lifetime participation in sports. PlayyOn is not just for athletic directors, it's also for recreational districts, so that they can use it to be able to encourage and support people like you and me who still got some game, and I still play basketball. And so encourage those people to get out and play. That's kind of what I'm always about. Athletic directors' jobs are hard enough as it is with all the things that they have to do. And what it is really helpful is when they say, look, my job is to make sure that our coaches are creating good people through sports. And I think that's a key. And I see so many great coaches doing that nowadays, and power to them.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that. And I'll go and comment on a couple of yours. The parent piece, I'm currently part of a team that's writing a new course for our national curriculum, and it's called Partnering with Parents. And one of those components is, making sure you communicate what your program's philosophy is. If your philosophy is to, send kids to college and, win every game and win a state championship, that's okay, but make sure you've communicated that to the parents and the kids so they understand it. Our philosophy at our school, and we're very successful. We have won quite a few state championships, but our philosophy is very simple. It just says we want every kid to have a great high school experience through athletics. And, that includes games and winning, and sometimes not winning, and practice and bus rides and everything else. But we're very upfront with our parents and our kids. Yeah, we want to win, but that's not our goal. The winning is a byproduct of doing all the other things right. Coming to practice, working hard, supporting your teammates, all the things that you talked about. So might have to get you on our writing team for this new course.
That's great. Jake, I really, it's so great to hear that. Because one of the things that we always talk about now is, especially in education, and I do actually work with some educators here, is the goal is to win, right? Like, and in life, the goal for me with my relationship with my husband is to have a great relationship. That's winning to me. The goal with my relationship with my kids is that I've given them the skills to win in life. Winning is something that we all want to do. But I also really think that what you're saying is you got to have the tools in place to win.
Mhm.
And so learning resilience, learning how to compete, which means also learning sportsmanship and learning all those things, communications, all those different things that come along with it are the reason that I feel that sports programs should not be extracurricular. I want them to be co-curricular. I
You've
think,
stolen my phrase. Yes.
oh, there you go. Hey, I think that we learn so much through sports when we are younger that has nothing to do with actually how to shoot a basketball or how to throw a football. It has to do how to be a good teammate, how to fail and then learn from that failure and come back and be a better person, how to communicate properly, how to train, how to apply yourself, all those things. And I know that educators who are teaching chemistry and mathematics, and they're teaching the same skill set, but there's no place to learn resilience as well as sports. Kids today, if they fail a chemistry test, they are devastated. And they just typically will say, oh, that's no longer my major. But when you fail a game and you get thumped in a game or you lose by 1 point by game, you learn like, well, okay, so what do we do right? What do we do wrong? It's not the end of the world. You just come back. And so there's no better route to learning resilience than sports. Sorry, I'm on my pedestal now.
It's
My apologies.
no, it's I'll send you the PowerPoint. You've hit about 8 out of 10 of the things I share when I speak to schools about building a championship program. And it's not about, winning those games or titles. It's about all the things that you just mentioned. That's how we become champions. So no, thank you so much. We've been asking our athletic directors to describe what's happening in their area with regards to COVID. And I know you're not at a single school, but can you share with us what's happening in California right now, what's happening in the Bay Area as far as maybe return to school as well as return to play?
So I can actually speak across the country and even across North America, because we have a lot of Canadians that use the PlayyOn platform, as about 15% and 85% is American. We do have a couple over in Australia and different places as well too. What we see going on is the advice that was given by the CDC, which was cohort your groups. So I would actually say back in March, you're right, everything came to a screeching halt while everybody figured out what was going on. They're like, okay, what does this mean? And so athletic directors and directors of recreational programs, everybody said, stop right now, shut down, which we saw that happen. And then we started to understand what this virus does and how we don't need to necessarily shut down all the programs, we need to adjust. And so that is actually what we've seen a lot of programs as they're coming back into engaging the kids again, is saying, how can we adjust our programs so that we can get kids back into active participation? Because we all know that it can actually be more detrimental than anything to just have kids sitting at home. And in fact, I've seen it firsthand how kids have gone from 7 days a week training, playing, loving the game to laying in bed and are now extremely depressed because we live off of those endorphins from sport. So here's what we've seen them do. A lot of them have pivoted their programs from being, okay, we're in this league, we're going to compete, that team against this team, to we're going to create our own internal school competitions. And because people like to compete, they like to feel like they're doing something for a purpose. So number one, they've changed all of their programs to training. So it's not about competing as much as it is training. And so it's gone from us challenging them to me as an athlete becoming a better athlete. So we're focusing, actually, it's a great thing because we're focusing a lot more on individual skill sets. So that's great, right? So now you've got all of this training going on and people are starting to say, well, okay, I've now gone from a 10-minute mile to an 8-minute mile or whatever it is going to be. Yeah, I was a 10-minute miler, by the way. I don't like, unless there's a ball in my hand, I don't like running. But the whole point is that we've seen them go to a lot of training. Then when they want to do some challenging, what they're doing is cohorts. And they're doing it in a really responsible way, where they'll say, we're going to play these 4 teams only, and we're just going to keep playing them over and over and over again. And everybody, as they come into that experience, will agree prior to that they will be temperature tested before every practice. Anybody that's sick, whether they're your best player or their worst, sit it out. And we've seen a lot of success with that. And so we've seen these cohorts, or also known as pods, actually working. I actually, just so that you know, that everything that we've seen happen comes back and it fits the story of what the government is saying to do in sports. They've put a lot of effort into saying, look, we know everybody wants to come back. If you're gonna come back, do this. And there's a lot of good advice for them. We even have we have a thing called PlayyOn Stories. And you can actually check it out there. We actually have all the links to the reports on how do I come back, set up cohorts, set up training, and that's working. And I really actually think that that's going to be, as every good athletic director knows, you can't keep kids from not wanting to play. And that's what sports are: getting out, getting physical, doing exercises. Just do it safely.
No, and again, I appreciate you sharing that. It's just been interesting to see the wide variety of responses from,
Yes,
governors and local health departments and school districts. Here in Florida, we delayed the start of fall sports for a month. And then even when they started up a month later in August, we still had parts of the state, particularly down in the Miami area, that are just now getting back on campus. And so
yes.
it's just been, like I said, it's been a whole new world, but it's
I'm
interesting
going
to
to
see
put
how
one.
things are going to move forward for us. Go ahead.
That's right. Well, I was just going to also say is that that is both children and adults that we see here in California are actually playing a lot of sports outside, right? Because we can. You asked me about California. One of the things I definitely noticed is that people have moved their basketball training outside, their volleyball training outside, as much as they can be outside. They're doing it because we know that the being outside is so much better. And the one thing that we always see is that areas that have a transmission rate over 1 do actually shut down again. Areas that have a transmission rate of less than 1 are starting to do, as we said, small cohorts, proper training. We actually think that kids and coaches and everybody are getting used to, just being able to pull up and down their masks when they come in together and they're within, we always say a reach, up goes the mask. When they're training, down goes the mask. And we see a lot of that going on. But I think people are starting, as we said, adjusting to pivoting to what they need to be able to do. Because if you said to me, Sally Ann, the only way that we're going to let you play tennis is if you adhere to these 3 rules. Wear a mask when you're not actually on the court. Sanitize your hands in between every set. And when you are there, nobody touches each other's rackets or anything else like that. I'd be like, I'm in, right? I'll do anything to be able to play. So.
No, and that I think is a crucial point is, we want to keep playing the games, we want to continue to be active. So how much do you want it? Okay. Let's not mess it up for somebody else. Okay.
That's right.
Great points. Another question we've been asking our athletic directors is a little bit more global. When we started doing this back in late June, the events of this spring in Minneapolis and Atlanta, and then recently in Wisconsin, we're still, front page news. And just this whole idea of, social justice, social awareness. I've been asking our athletic directors, what are some things that we can do with our stakeholders, with our kids, our coaches, our parents? What are some things that we can do better in this area of social awareness? I'm curious as to your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I'm a white, probably considered privileged female. So first of all, I want to apologize, right? Because I think there has been a lot of social injustice built into the system for years. I don't think it's my fault. I don't think it's your fault per se, because I don't think we are intentionally treating people differently. But I do think that if you are really honest with the truth, is that there are a lot of social injustices, not intentional, it's just the way the system's played out. So sports is a great leveler in some ways. And this is what I always say to folks, is that one of the other things about sports that we don't talk about that you learn in chemistry class is you learn respect, right? Sports teaches you respect for other people's abilities. And if you are, like when I play tennis and I get beat by somebody who's better than me, I got respect for them. So in sports, it becomes a real level playing field for learning how to respect other people for their abilities. And this is a place where sports, especially with the fact that a lot of Black African Americans, Hispanics in soccer, all those different things have the ability to come out and be leaders and create an environment of showing leadership so that kids can see other people respecting them. And there's a great line in that book that I was telling you about before about the Black African American rowing crew. And it was in the book, they say, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So Black, African, Hispanic, brown, whatever, diversity leaders have the ability to actually be leaders and speak on issues. I'm not going to move the needle, but if they come forward and ask to be treated with respect, I think it's a really big move. Now, there's an interesting one that in my tennis world, again, I'm also now a tennis player, there was a young lady who won the US Open that is actually of Japanese descent. And I have a lot of respect for the fact that she came out and said, yes, I'm Japanese. It's not our immediate image of what a Japanese person would be like, but her voice and speaking out as somebody who's a leader in sport and speaking out for social equality was powerful. And I just really encourage people to use those voices to encourage that we all try and speak the truth and give each other a level of respect which is deserved.
Good stuff. We talk about respect a lot. Well, Sally Ann, this has just been great, listening to you, getting to know you a little bit, but we're not done yet.
Okay.
We always like to wrap up with what we call the new athletic director's toolbox. Now, again, you've been in athletics for most of your life at a lot of different levels, participant, coach, parent, CEO. But now I'm going to task you with sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 things are going to go in Sally Ann Reiss's athletic director toolbox?
Virtually or emotionally, or what are you talking about?
Yes to the question. What 3 things are you going to put in there? We've had all kinds of answers.
Wow. Gosh, where to start? Hey, number 1, obviously, is I would put their PlayyOn platform in their toolbox.
Of course.
And Jake, your community, if they want to reach out to me directly, I'd be happy to walk them through and make them successful on the platform. We have a team here of people that sole job is to make sure that our customers are successful. That's it.
Let's go ahead and address that right now. How would someone listening to this, what's the best way for them to get in touch with the folks at PlayyOn?
Well, if they want to just shoot us an email, info@playon.com. But if you go to our PlayyOn website and you sign up, because sign up is free. There's no cost to PlayyOn for the athletic organizer. So if they go on and they create something, they're going to get a little blue bubble in the bottom. And if they just touch on that little blue button and say, hey, Coach Jake sent me, you know, I need some help figuring out what this does, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
And like I said, this is a job of our whole team here, is to make sure that athletic directors and coaches are successful in what they're doing. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, what would I put in there? Because I know they don't have a lot of time in their hands, but I always love the movie, Remember the Titans. Right? I think that's a very powerful book about what we learn through sports. Right? And it's about camaraderie. It's about your community and what you're really trying to accomplish through your relationships in sports. And then if I was actually to put something in there for the athletic directors, I think it would be if I'm not allowed to give it without actually having to pay for it, I would actually give them the opportunity to take a vacation, a 7-day vacation where they get to go and do their favorite thing and reflect on all the values that they are really trying to bring to the kids, because that's what they're really trying to do. I know that most of these athletic directors, it's not just a job. They're trying to change the life of kids for the better. And I ask them, you know, remember what your values are and what makes you such a great person, and then how you want to make sure that you're passing those on to the kids, and what does your program reflect to do that. So take a vacation, remember and reflect on your values, because I think that that's what makes us wake up every day and love our jobs.
Great advice. And I wish I had that toolbox when I was starting out. Okay. Sally Ann, thank you again. Athlete, coach, mom, CEO. Okay.
Not at all.
Thanks for being on the show.
Jake, it's always my pleasure. And to all those athletic directors out there, I just want to say to you again that you guys are huge in the lives of our children. And we really do appreciate all the work that you're doing for us.
On behalf of the ADs, I say thank you. That's more information. That's PlayyOn, PlayyOn.com. And, let Sally and her team help you out. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget, these are also available on the Educational Athletic Director FIAAA YouTube channel. Have a great day.